Hello, everybody, and welcome to our check-in. I got my special guest here, Buster. Hey, he's a good boy. He's a good boy. So we're enjoying some sunshine out today. I decided to have Buster come hang out with me today because today is my birthday, and honestly, I wanted to have a little company with my good boy. Right, he's a good boy. So I thought for today, since we have been talking about music over the last week or so, I talk about either some groups or songs and things that have special meaning to me and kind of the reason behind it. So the first song I want to talk about is the song "Let It Be" by the Beatles. I've said many times before that the Beatles are my all-time favorite band. Um, and there's kind of a connection to this group, and I'll kind of explain it in a second. So when I used to listen to the song "Let It Be," I was just like everyone else, just singing the song, just enjoying it. But I feel like as time has gone on, that particular song has had different meaning for me personally. So in an interview with Paul McCartney, he talks about how his mother had passed away, and he had a dream one night, and his mother was basically telling him it's gonna just let it be. It's gonna be okay, and everything's gonna be all right. And he woke up, and that's what inspired him to write "Let It Be." And I remember when I was younger, when I'd hear that song, he starts out with like, Mother Mary came to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be, let it be. And when I think about that song, then I thought it was like connected to Jesus, like Mother Mary, like his, etc. But I found out his mama's name is Mary, and that's who he was talking about. So how this song has changed, like once I found that out, but how it's kind of changed after the fact is for two reasons. One, my mother passed away 11 years ago, and even to this day, like I'll still kind of talk to her and ask for advice, even though I know she's not going to respond to me necessarily. It's not like she's just going to appear and start talking to me, but I still look for some kind of inspiration or whatever it might be from her, because she always had a way of making me feel good and saying the right thing. She also had a lot of these crazy, expressions I've said in the past, like, like get up and go, got up and went, or it's a great life if you don't weaken, which is it's pretty accurate. But keeping that in mind, it's just that connection that like a mom has with their child, right? So, my mother was always very supportive. And another reason why I feel like the song kind of connects with me more now is my best friend. When I was growing up, he lived right next door. His name was Marty, or his name is Marty. His mother's name was Mary, and she had passed away too. Not that long ago, but honestly, she to me was like a second mother. She took care of me just like I was her own kid. She was phenomenal, and her name was Mary. And I feel like my friend Marty is kind of the one that got me really started on liking the Beatles, because I will have to, admit he always had a good taste in music, and I feel like that kind of rubbed off on me a little bit. So I think about all the parents who have passed away. I feel like they still have that, connection to us, and it's just a nice feeling thinking about that song, because I think of like I'm hoping that like my own mom is up there saying everything's going to be okay, especially in times when they're tough. Like times now are tough. And it's nice having those people that are there for you. So I would just say, one, appreciate the people that are around you, right? I think they're there for you, to support you and to help you. And I know this sounds repetitive a lot of times, but you know, when you're in a situation where you don't have that, obviously, you're seeking for it in different ways. So I live vicariously through the music, and I seek my inspiration wherever it might be through there. All right, so connecting also to my friend. So the next song that kind of I think of like growing up, that even though it was in the 70s, this song it was probably in the 80s when I learned to appreciate it a little more. And it was the song Hotel California by the Eagles. And I really do enjoy the Eagles. I didn't think they would ever get back together, and then they did. And then, but that song, I guess what it reminds me is I still can remember to this day. I don't know why I remember this, but I remember my buddy sitting on the counter with a radio in his hand, had a tape player because that's what we had to deal with, listening to that song and just like singing it. And I think the reason why that connects with me is I think of the childhood memories that I had, hanging out with him, because now he lives, in another state and it's hard to see him. But but listening to that music, knowing that he helped me inspire liking the Beatles and John Lennon and the song Imagine, and he started me listening into the Eagles. He might not even know these things, but he is definitely the reason why I listen to some of the classic rock music that I do. He was my inspiration for that. So I think sometimes these songs, the lyrics themselves aren't necessarily what the big deal is. It's the idea that that song can trigger a memory for you, right? That will help give you a feeling that, makes you feel good. And that's the type of song that helps remind me of like past memories. Like my other friend I grew up with, one of my best friends, his name is Chris. I remember being at his house, and in his room he had in the TV, had MTV. First of all, his TV was huge. It was like a just big piece of furniture, so big. But I remember his remote control, which was a box, but it had a cord on it. And I was like, dude, that is like the coolest thing ever. But I remember listening to the song The Safety Dance, and watching that video at his house. And I have no idea why these things stick out to me. But then it reminds me, every time I hear that song, even to this day, I remember being at his house. And there's just certain things about there that I always will remember. It's like whether we would play ping pong downstairs and he would pretty much beat me like every single solitary time. He was really good. Or I would always know if I went into his refrigerator, he would always have a bowl of cut up carrots and water. His mother would always do that. And like now, for like the longest time, I'm like in my 40s, and I do that because it was inspired by going to his house. But the memories of going to his house, it gets triggered by that song. That and always by Midnight Oil, The Beds Are Burning. I don't know what it is about those two songs, but it always reminds me of being at his house. And I had great memories there. Like we would play, Trivial Pursuit and do all these things. And my other buddy, we'd hang out all the time, play wiffle ball. So the reason why I'm saying this is there's some certain songs that are going to trigger memories for you and make you feel nostalgic about your certain experiences. Like there's probably going to be a song that you're going to hear 10 years from now and be like, oh man, that reminds me of quarantine, whatever it might be. So when I think of those songs, it's definitely that. So the last two that I'm going to talk about is when I hear pretty much anything by John Cougar Mellencamp, or I guess it goes by John Mellencamp now, I always think of that. My oldest sister took me to see my very first concert, to go see John Cougar, and I thought it was so cool. I was 12 years old. It was 1985. It was a Scarecrow tour, and when I think of that music, I know my sister, my oldest sister, her name is Rita. She likes like 70s style music, but I remember going to that concert, thinking how cool I felt that I was going to actually do a concert. I mean, I've not been as many concerts as a lot of my friends have been, but that is definitely a concert that stood out to me because it was the first concert. So every time I hear John Mellencamp, it always reminds me of my sister and any fond memory I might have, I've had with her over time, because it reminds me of that. And my other sister, who's age right above me, her name is Robin. She, when I would go up to visit her in Boston, because her and I ended up going to the same college, because like I said earlier, I wanted to be an accountant, so I tried to follow her footsteps. And then I realized I didn't want to be an accountant, I wanted to be a teacher, and I still ended up following her, going into the same school, which I'm grateful for because that's the school where I met my wife. But putting that aside, anytime I hear Elton John or the group Squeeze, it reminds me of my sister, because I remember going into her apartment, and I remember she would have to go to work, and I was old enough, I could stay in her apartment, so she would go to work and I'd be in her apartment, and I'd be listening to all her Elton John music. So it always reminds me of Boston. It always reminds me of visiting my sister, and the various songs in regards to that, also with the songs by Squeeze. Now, people inspire you for different things. I mean, my sister used to, when she was in high school, she used to date a guy who was really into the Ramones, and I didn't really know what the Ramones were, but then I started listening to Ramones because of her, and now I like them. So you never know where that inspiration is going to come from, and what song or group is going to trigger certain memories, for you. And I think that's what's so great about music. So I didn't want to specifically talk about general songs today, But the idea is listening to music just has an impact on you, just puts you in a good mood. Um, I mean, you hear, I mean, it's from the 70s, but you hear that song YMCA, it doesn't matter where you are, all of a sudden you're just like, you just get into the rhythm. And the reason why I know that music has such a powerful impact on people is because, like, I think about when we used to go on our trip for school, we would go to Spears. And I remember, like, people would be on the side, like, having a drink of water, and all of a sudden that one song would come on, and they'd be like, it's go time. And then everybody would just run to the middle, and they would do the dance. And it always blew my mind that everybody knew how to do this dance. I'm like, I never even heard of this song. I've never seen that dance before, and yet everybody knows how to do it. I'm like, you guys are like using telepathy. You're just like, yes, this, left, right, boom. So I always found that incredible. So, but keeping that all in mind, I think just for today, I'm just going to, I'm happy that I get to celebrate my birthday, and hopefully I'll stay on a sunny day. I'm happy that I get to hang out with my buddy, right? This is my good boy, right? You good boy, Buster, huh? Yeah, apparently he's tired. Sleeping all day, all the time makes you tired. So I am hoping that you are listening to music. I am hoping that you are, I don't know, dancing, singing, whatever you do. And then I think that's pretty much all I got to say today. I mean, I'm a little bit scatterbrained. I've been writing curriculum all morning. My brain's kind of fried. But until our next check-in, people, have a wonderful day and peace out.